Okay? Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. What a treat I have for you today, listeners. This is Johanna Thomas talking relationships and how to keep them healthy amidst this corona pandemic with the legend that is Dr. John Gray. Dr. John shot to fame in 1992 when he wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which today has sold over 15 million copies. Dr. John has since gone on to write many books, translated into 45 languages in more than 100 countries. He is quite positively the world's leading expert in dating and relationships, and I am delighted and honored to be with him again today. Dr. John, welcome back to the Way Forward show.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a real pleasure. Happy to be with you.
Now, surely what we are experiencing globally with this pandemic is like nothing you've ever seen before when it comes to relationships. What are you noticing?
Well, clearly we can look at, lots of conflict, and some people are getting very, very closer. Some people are ready for a divorce.
Yeah.
It's a crisis. It's an opportunity to grow together, or it's an opportunity to not do the right things. You know, in Wuhan, where the virus started, when people started coming out, divorce rates went from 12 a week to 300 a week. They're in long lines to get divorces. People are, it's ideal relationship is basically 20% your partner and 80% yourself. You know,
Right.
we all have a life outside our home or with our children that's not dependent on our partners for anything. You know, we have our own sense of self. And so the ideal relationship is really 80% you're handling yourself, and 20% you depend on your partner because they can make you happier without a doubt. But when you're sitting with them all the time, you tend to be too close. You're not getting enough separation. We need connection and separation, and too much connection causes irritation, annoyance, suffocation, irritability. And if depending on your relationship skills, that can then cause more eruptions.
Yeah, it can go lethal. I mean, I believe that if the corona germ doesn't kill you physically, it will kill you, it will get you socially, mentally, or financially. I mean, in some form, it's going to ruin you. But what are your top tips to help us all cope with this, staying at home with the lesser finances, being under each other's feet, everything? What are your top?
Put every decision about your relationship or your judgments of your partner on hold. We're a little temporarily crazy. You shouldn't trust your feelings if you feel, I don't feel loved, I don't feel appreciated. Yeah, you can't at this time for some people. You're just going to put that on hold. It's kind of like we tipped over balance. Now, when we come back into balance, our hearts can open again. What we're seeing here is 100 different sources of stress for people: change, uncertainty, financial woes, too much closeness in the relationship. The children are there all the time. They're depending too much on you. Exhaustion. So many things can be a part of people's lives now. That causes a physiological response, causes a stress response. It's called cortisol. Cortisol inhibits our ability to send blood flow to the prefrontal cortex of the brain, where we can see solutions, where we see opportunities, where our heart opens, where we can feel empathy, where we have patience. We just run out of patience right now. That's pretty much it. So my big tip is thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience. I was once at an airport, 24 hours waiting for a plane in the middle of the night. It was 30 years ago. It was cold. It was freezing from Japan to Philippines. And they kept saying, get on the plane, get off the plane, get on the plane. I wanted to kill somebody. Okay. And I'm a loving person. I never felt like that. But the person on the microphone would say, thank you for your patience. And I kept going, yes, that's a resource I need to bring up within myself. So right now we need to have patience. We have to not make any decisions. This is a time of looking at ourselves. Now, if some people have spirituality, this is a great time because they can do more physical exercises, more yoga, or they can do more prayer. They can do more meditation. They can do more walks in nature. They can observe silence. We need to create distance between us and our partner so that we can then come together. You can't come together if you're not apart. So these are like really important things to remember. We're temporarily a little crazy.
Yeah, maybe take walks separately, do some things separately, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes. And the Men Are From Mars ideas can be very, very helpful here, which is women often need to talk about what's going on inside in order to feel seen and heard and touched emotionally. Don't do that with your partner. This is not the time to do it with your partner. Call up a girlfriend, go online. That's the time to listen to other people, to be heard. Another thing we should all know is that if you learn something new, taking courses at this time, and there's so many online courses at this time, engages the prefrontal cortex of your brain. Maybe nothing more powerful than that. Learning something new. Also learning physical steps, learning new exercises. All these things are available online. People can do them without depending on their partner. And the other really big one for women and then for men is that when men don't feel powerful, okay, they're making a difference 80% of the time, like having work, having a job, going to the gym, all those kinds of things, that lowers the hormone testosterone. He needs to withdraw into his cave. So he'll be going into his cave a lot more. And we should welcome that. Women should go, oh, he needs what he needs. This is what I need to focus on, what I need. Don't try to pull him out of his cave. Don't try to change him in any way. But here's the hard thing. If we don't understand men and women are different in many ways, when he pulls away, women can feel, oh, he doesn't love me. He doesn't care about me. Why am I not a priority? Right now, we need to be ourselves our priority 80% of the time. Then 20% of the time, we can freely give to our partners.
Right. So you think it's more about time to spend on ourselves, like just nourishing ourselves, self-love, educating ourselves, that kind of thing, rather than just always trying to be with your partner and talk to them and go through the whole.
Yeah, this is not the time to, talking with your partner is good if you're 80% full. It's like a cup. You fill the cup 80%, then you can pour out some into your partner. Or you fill up on your own, then you overflow into your partner. And that's the feelings of in love is generally unconditional love. But it's really hard to feel unconditional when you're empty. That's why you want to shift your focus during this time. And this is a growth experience if we can hold on to those ideas of not depending on our partner for our happiness. The flip side of not depending on our partner for our happiness is blaming our partner. If you're depending too much on them, you're going to be blaming them. So any of those little thoughts, your mind starts focusing on little negative. He left his shoes. He didn't clean up after himself. He's watching TV too much. He shouldn't be doing this. She shouldn't be doing this. Why is she talking on the phone all the time? Why isn't she happy? Just realize this is like a big thunderstorm coming in, and you put on your jacket and you know it will pass.
Love it. Love it. Okay. And as time is running away with us, what are you working on now, John? Surely this is a wonderful material for a new book.
Well, I'm doing so many of these podcasts. It is new material for a book, without a doubt. But I'm basically having a bit of a vacation because I meditate. I'm really good. I've taught meditation 50 years. It's the other part of me. So time alone is fantastic for me. So I just get to go into my meditation, do my physical exercise, and then have lots of sex. Because I take my time apart, then I can enjoy lots of sex. If you're too close together, you can't come together. That's such a simple point. You got to pull away to come together in harmony.
Come together in harmony. And remind everyone about your most current book, and perhaps one from the past that you feel would be most relevant for us to read during this time.
Well, most relevant is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Most people have read it. You might want to reread it. It really helps us understand the cave and women's need for talking. Talks about women in a wave. They tend to go up and go down. Men tend to be like rubber bands. They pull away. If you go after them, they keep pulling away. If you just stay put, he'll spring back. So that's separating to come together. But then the really powerful one is the updated version of Men Are From Mars called Beyond Mars and Venus, which helps us understand when women are too far on their male side, not enough on their female side, the new problems that creates. And when men are too passive, too emotional, which can happen at this time, then what happens is they become too irritable and they lose those soft, romantic, selfless feelings. So that's Beyond Mars and Venus.
Beyond Mars and Venus. I love it. Okay. And tell us about your very comprehensive website.
Oh, MarsVenus.com. You can spend hours and hours going through the blogs, video blogs, each little topic of me and then my daughter, Lauren. She's 34. She's been teaching this for 10 years for single people, for couples. There's also an online course on sex, online course on relationships. There's free courses, all these blogs like little courses. There's even an Insiders Club where every day there's an hour video that I provide for you. So you got plenty of video.
For us to do, surely, right?
Lots to do, lots to learn.
Your website, I love it. And what about your social media sites so we can all support and follow you?
Well, they can go to Mars Venus on Facebook, and I do different little presentations there. I did one on COVID, which is right on my site, which is really nice as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much. Much love and appreciation for all that you do, Dr. John. And stay safe and well and happy, and speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Until next time, this is Johanna Thomas, your resident holistic nutritionist for The Way Forward. Dr. John, it is a pleasure to have you back for an extended chat on the Pure Job YouTube cast. Now, let's dive deeper into this corona relationship thing. Does it matter what the home life scenario is whether it's a mother with 3 children and the husband suddenly come home, or it's a woman at home and she's trying to conceive and the husband's trying to conceive, or is the answer the same? Is the way to deal with it the same in every scenario?
Pretty much, because when we're confined like we are today with so many uncertainties, the brain goes into conditioned wiring. Literally, there's wiring that we have that we go into when we're feeling uncertain and in danger. Stress levels go up, blood flow stops to the prefrontal cortex, where we can actually make choices, creative decisions, where we can adapt, where we can feel kindness and empathy. All those things come from the prefrontal cortex. But the back part of the brain is more primitive. That's what gets activated in fight or flight. And it's fight or fight or fake and fold. There's a lot of different reactions that we have. We have to pretend, or we just feel passive, or we get angry and have arguments, or we just withdraw into our cocoon. These are all different reactions that are normal for us when we're experiencing high levels of stress. And what accentuates it is thinking that we have to find an answer now. We need to go on pause. This is a time to just go on pause. It's reset. You know, so many times when the computer's not working or some technical thing's not working, unplug it, then plug it back in. That's what. And when you unplug, it doesn't mean go get a divorce. It means temporarily let go of your requirements and expectations of your life and your partner right now. It will come back online. But if you buy into the feelings and common feelings that men will typically have, is no matter what I do, nothing makes her happy. She's unhappy. Why do I want to be with somebody who doesn't appreciate what I do for her? And certainly women can have those feelings, but that's the major thing for men that brings them down. And for women, it's look, all the things I do for him, I'm doing this, I'm picking up after him, worrying about this, and he's doing nothing. I get nothing for him. Why am I with the bum? You know, it's so
true, John. It's so true.
So these are the tendencies that are there. So when you see those tendencies, there's a great concept, which is don't believe what you think and don't believe what you feel right now. It's what you feel, it's what you think, but it's not really the true you. We do have a higher, more conscious, more loving self. That can sound esoteric. Actually, I am very esoteric, my higher self, my lower self. But now we have science to say you've got prefrontal cortex and you've got the primitive limbic system of the brain. Who's in charge? So right now, that part of the brain just takes over. It's been there for 300 million years. It's much more powerful under times of stress to take over. And you get these automatic reactions that to a certain extent you observed as a child and you don't even know you observed it. You saw it, you felt it with your parents when you were growing up. It's programming that goes on. And it's the programming that goes on when they're stressed, not when they're not stressed. It's when they're stressed. How do we behave when we're stressed? And that programming from them came about from their parents when they were growing up, and it gets passed along, you know. So it's the stress response, and everybody's a little different. As I mentioned, fight, flight, withdrawal. It's fake, pretend, give more, but you really resent having to give, and the others fold, which is just collapsing. I give up. I'm done with this, or going into fetal position. So if these are your stress responses, just do your very best to say, you know, limbic system, I know you're doing your best, but I'm not going to believe you right now. It's literally have a conversation with yourself. This is temporary. It's going to pass. And it doesn't make it necessarily all go away. But what we can pull from it is patience. That's what we need. It's a resource we have. Instead of love your partner, it's be patient. It's be patient. That's what we can pull forth at this time.
Because as women, we overanalyze everything. And, you know, how do we control this? Because I know we have patience, but it's easier said than done, you know, because it adds to our stress levels. Then we can't sleep. Then we're irritable the next day. You know, it's like a vicious circle that just keeps going round. You know, any tips for that?
Okay, so this takes a minute to explain. It's the theme of Beyond Mars and Venus, the new men are from Mars. It took 25 years, and I was able to find the biological differences between men and women that nobody disputes. Okay, I've been talking about biological differences of the brain for years, but people dispute it, and because brain science is so complicated, but nobody can dispute our hormonal differences. Women's hormones are very different from men. They change in different ways. Her well-being, her fight or flight response, what it does is it kicks up testosterone in her body and it lowers her estrogen. Now, let's see what that does. It turns out that whenever women are unhappy, irritable, the things you were just describing, their estrogen levels are low, their testosterone levels are rising. So they're making testosterone, not making estrogen or progesterone. So that's her fight or flight. A man's fight or flight is the opposite. For him, under fight or flight, what happens for him is his estrogen begins to go up. His testosterone first goes up when he has a challenge, but that's not fight or flight. That's not cortisol. He has a challenge. He's going to try to solve the problem. If he can't solve the problem, because he has unrealistic expectations of his wife. See, the big problem for men is what happened to my wife? Why isn't she happy? So he's going to try to make her happy. That's her job. He doesn't realize that. He thinks he can make her happy. Because he can make her happy when she's already happy, he can make her happier. So his experience is I can say things and do things and make her happy. Actually, he's making her happier. Now, her job, but he doesn't know this. So he feels like I did all the right things. She's not happy. What's wrong with her? Now he goes into fight or flight. His estrogen levels start to rise. He starts to feel defensive. That's fear. He starts to feel anger. That's estrogen. Anger is estrogen in his body. Anger is not testosterone. This is all, most people think, oh, testosterone is the bad hormone. Actually, anytime a man is being selfless and of service for others, his testosterone level rises. Selflessness increases testosterone. Selfishness increases estrogen. So estrogen is thinking about yourself, self-nurturing, self-time. And it's not a negative kind of selfishness. It's like, what do I need? And getting what you need. So at this time, if we understand this sort of dynamic, then we realize when women are overanalyzing, you mentioned that word, so that's a good subject to go on. That's testosterone. So what's happening is when you're in fight or flight, analyzing is to detach, to pull apart and try to fix and solve and be alert. And it just makes sense also when you think about when you're in danger, your brain has a bias towards looking at problems. Okay, so it's like, okay, what could go wrong? You're looking around. So your brain literally goes into this bias of looking at problems, and it creates these unconscious channels where you just automatically do it. And the older you get, the more, most people, not everybody, the more automatic it is. So it just gets worse and worse and worse because it's an automatic challenge. When you're uncertainty, boom, the wiring is there. There was a Nobel Prize went to a guy who said, who discovered neurons that fire together, link together. They grow together. You actually create highways, super highways from I don't know what to do and pain, okay, anxiety. It just comes up as opposed to I don't know what to do. Oh, well, what positive things could happen right now? So a child doesn't always have all of those highways, but we build them up over time as negative things happen to us at times of uncertainty. So that's what we're facing right now is those automatic loops. And so what we can do is not act on them, not give them power over us. That's the hope. Don't believe what you feel. Don't believe what you think. It's kind of funny, too, because you hear in the news all the time, fake news, what's really real, left and right, all this stuff. It's like, what do you believe? That's where you can turn inside and start believing what feels good to you. When your heart is open, believe that. When your heart is not open, something's askew. It's not that you're completely wrong. It's exaggerated, it's overreactive, it's not lasting. We need to keep coming back to what feels good to us in terms of our heart. And when I say what feels good, I mean what feels good that keeps us feeling good. There's a lot of things you can do that feel good in the moment, but don't feel good later. And that might be yelling and screaming at your partner. It might be 3 gallons of ice cream, whatever. We need to be gentle with ourselves at this time as well, get lots of rest. There's so many online classes on meditation, guided meditations. A lot of women think, oh, I can't meditate. A lot of men too. Meditation, the more traditional ones, where you sit and you close your eyes and watch your breath, or you do a mantra and you repeat your mantra. These are great meditations. But for many people, they're boring. And what can happen for them is if they can just listen to some nice music and have someone guide them in a meditation, kind of like a hypnotic trance, then it's very easy, it's very relaxing, and they're all over the place on the internet that people can get these guided meditations.
That's true. And you know what I love to do is I love to get my man to give me a foot rub.
Oh, I got to tell you, my favorite thing for this I invented during COVID. Okay, so because ideal relationship is time to connect, time to be apart. Separation creates testosterone. Estrogen is connection. And I want to make sure I finish your thought on overanalyzing. So overanalyzing is picking apart. It's that pathway of I'm trying to solve this problem. So what women can do at that time is connect and increase estrogen. And so what does create estrogen is what you just said, which is take a bath, enjoy yourself, self-nurturing time. Major estrogen producers are calling somebody up or going to a coach and talking, expressing how you feel without having to consider what somebody else is going to think. That's why you can't do this with your husband. It doesn't work as well if you're considering how it's going to sound to somebody. Or even worse, it doesn't produce hardly any estrogen if you're expressing how you feel and it's negative emotions, but these negative emotions, the intention behind them is to change your partner. Like, you need to understand this so you'll change, okay? You need to understand how I feel so you stop stepping on my foot, okay? That kind of expression of emotion actually just creates the pathways of fight or flight in your brain. Using negative emotions to get what you want is being a monkey. Okay, literally, we dehumanize ourselves when we use negative emotions, yelling to get attention, to intimidate, crying to get sympathy. And it's not that all negative emotions are bad. It's when we have negative emotions and we then use them to get something from someone.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what we have to recognize. But if you can feel your negative emotions and communicate them, give words to them, you're actually strengthening the human part of you, giving words to emotions without having to consider how it's going to affect someone, or particularly without the intention to change them. So that's why you talk to somebody you're not upset with and tell them how you feel. And so and even with that, you want to do it in a conscious way where you're going to only do it for, say, like 10 minutes. And so you want to process this so you don't because it feels good and you can get addicted to talking about negative emotions. Most of my clients after a while are addicted, and I tell them, now you got to slow it down. We're only going to do so much because it feels good. It feels good to feel heard and whatever, but it becomes a pathway of now I need to get in touch with my negative emotions to feel good, as opposed to let me get in touch with my positive emotions and feel good. Those are channels, you can create by practice. Just keep saying out loud all the good things. I remember when I worked with Oprah for so many years, one of her favorite techniques was every day writing out what she's grateful for. Expressing what you're grateful for is an estrogen producer. It says, look what I have. Shopping online, by the way, is a big estrogen producer. It's great. And the thing about for women, and for women, it could be men or women, but when it comes to estrogen, and estrogen doesn't lower stress for men. It's testosterone that lowers stress for men. It's estrogen that lowers stress for women. It's that what men don't understand about women, which is so helpful when they understand it, is I can bring her 50 roses and it will create a surge of estrogen. I can bring her 1 rose, it will create the same surge of estrogen. So, and estrogen doesn't last long. It's got to be fed. It's like a plant. You got to keep watering it. So what men have to recognize, this is thing about women, is do lots of little things that say, I care. Do lots of little things that say, I understand something you like, what you feel, what you're going through. Honoring that is in consistent ways, like 4 hugs a day is really a good thing to do. Hugs stimulate a hormone called oxytocin, and oxytocin has been proven to lower stress for women. But the reason it lowers stress is because it raises estrogen. So oxytocin doesn't lower stress for men because it raises estrogen. Unless a man has really too high of testosterone, then oxytocin can lower his testosterone without it going too far down. Ultimately, we have both male, female inside of us. We want to balance this, and maybe another time in history, women had too much estrogen, and men had too much testosterone. But right now, the place we've gone is the other direction, which is men have too much estrogen. Symptoms of estrogen in men are grumpiness, irritability, strong emotions, passiveness, anger, and addiction. Okay, addiction is a major thing for men, and unfortunately for a lot of single guys, this is going to be a really tough time because they just go right online and they masturbate to porn, and every time they do, their testosterone levels go lower and lower and lower. They now become dependent on porn, which is a high dopamine stimulator, to pump up their testosterone. And so what we're seeing, without this COVID thing, teenagers who've been raised on internet porn because it's available to all of them, they're all doing it. By the time they're 21, they're impotent. They're impotent unless it's with a woman they don't know, or a porn star, or a fantasy woman. They can't actually get turned on after a few times having sex with the same woman. Women have experienced that today. They say, I go on a date, we get really physically intimate, and he never calls back. He doesn't have the hormone balance in order to sustain interest in a woman, because he's so dependent upon that really big hit of dopamine to raise his testosterone. The big hit is anything new and different is a big hit of dopamine. Also, right now, people are really getting addicted too much to the news. I watch myself go, I thought last night I did a lot of work and I'm ready to have a nice relaxing evening. And I thought, I'm going to watch a movie tonight. And then I put on the news and I said, wow, this is more exciting to me than a movie, because the news is new and different, danger, what's happening. And they're not saying anything new and different, really. It's just like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? These are high dopamine stimulators. And the problem with high dopamine is it desensitizes the brain to experiencing pleasure from normal stimulation. See, normal stimulation would be, what did your kids do today? What your wife experienced today? Helping my clients or whatever. People who are bored, it's because they have dependence on high dopamine stimulation. I remember once a policeman in one of my seminars, he was saying, that's it, because he couldn't understand why, when he was a young policeman, he'd turn on those lights and the siren. He said it was like a cocaine rush, and he says, now I turn on, nothing happens, there's no juice. I said, you just described the sex life of so many men who are dependent upon this high dopamine stimulation. Because what can happen is in our marriages, so many couples lose their spark. It's pretty natural. There's ways to keep the spark, but what happens, it's worse today because men can just go online and get that spark. And the more they get the spark from a fantasy woman, which will always produce more dopamine than the woman you slept with for 10 years. See, there's familiarity lowers dopamine, and newness raises dopamine. And so the more we get addicted to watching the news right now, the less pleasure we're going to get from things which are familiar, which is our children, our wife, our partner, and so forth. It works that same way for women as well. It's just that men are more vulnerable to it, tend to be more vulnerable to it. Anyway, the solution to that, whenever I describe these horrible problems, you have to, I only talk about it, there's a solution, okay? There is a solution. And, I talk about this in my book, Beyond Mars and Venus, because that's what explains the hormones. We can see it's so easy once we get the plumbing set up. One of the things that will always stimulate increasing balance of hormones is polarity. I started out talking today about ideal relationship is connection and separation. Connection is estrogen. Separation, you pull back to rebuild your testosterone. Then you feel that connection. You feel that desire to connect. Opposites connect, like magnetic poles. That spark that we talk about is actually magnetic attraction. Okay, this energetic attraction between the sexes. And what happens if a woman is anchored in her female side and a man is anchored in his masculine side? I can also have a very strong female side, but as long as my masculine side is full blown, I will be attractive to my partner, regardless of how familiar they are. Because the actual attraction is not the dopamine and the serotonin, it's the testosterone and the estrogen. So if my relationship supports her and she supports herself in being more estrogen oriented, then my masculine side will be attracted. I will want to go to her to experience more estrogen. And see, orgasm for women is 20 times more estrogen than a man. Okay, just to be happy, a woman needs 10 times more estrogen in her body. You can measure a happy woman, she's got 10 times more estrogen than a man. This time of orgasm, she has 20 times more estrogen. So, yeah, so many women say, I can't fall in love. Now, you'll see this even couples who are married, they're no longer in love. You'll see many women have been divorced, and they've been divorced for 10 years, and they're dating men. They're in their 40s. They're basically saying, why can't I fall in love? I meet these nice guys, he does these nice things. There's just no spark. I just don't fall in love. I can even have sex, but it's not like there's no thrill. So that falling in love is actually doubling your estrogen levels. It's 20 times more than a man's estrogen levels. It's 10 times more than your normal estrogen levels. So you got to be able to be in a relationship with sparks. You have relationship skills that can cause that surge, and you don't have to have that surge all the time. You just need it a few times a month, basically, and then it's kind of like, okay, I ate that meal and I'm so satisfied now. I'm not going to crave any junk food because I had such a big nourishing meal. Everything is good. You feel that satisfaction. So it doesn't have to be all the time her estrogen goes to those high levels, because it would be impractical, because it's at those times where a woman will just completely yield and surrender. She opens herself up, and since she becomes mindless, which is what yogis want to do through meditation, women experience through orgasm. And but not that women can't benefit from meditation as well. As I mentioned, guided meditations tend to be easier, more enjoyable for women, just to put on one of these beautiful music and have someone guide you through the meditation. Because when you're being guided, or you're in a yoga class and somebody's leading you, or you're in a church service and somebody's saying, now sit up, stand down, that's all hypnotic trance. Now we're going to sing, now you're going to do this, now you're going to do that. Whenever you yield to somebody else's will, and you choose to, you're basically producing estrogen. So that estrogen particularly helps women to relax. And then when they relax, the fight or flight hormone goes down, the blood flow goes to the prefrontal cortex. Then you have more choice and how you want to be. But even still, when you're up here in the prefrontal cortex, due to a painful childhood or trauma or excessive dependence on complaining, okay, where you get things by complaining, you're in an environment where people complain a lot and they yell, whatever. What happens is your brain 90% of your brain is going to grow these pathways of focusing on negativity as a way to get what you want. So whenever you want something, you get negative. These pathways happen automatically, as opposed to you want something, you become optimistic. And this is literally training in your brain. Is just when you're starting to get negative, you just go stop, and let me now not do whatever I was going to do, and instead pretty much do the opposite. And that would be for women. Do something that will raise your estrogen or progesterone, depending on what time of the month it is. But it's almost the same things that produce these female hormones. Do something that you enjoy doing. Okay. It doesn't involve changing someone. Okay, it doesn't involve changing someone. So it's about changing yourself. I can put on makeup. I can. Women might find themselves obsessing over their body now. Okay, so.
Well, this is a question I have for you, because I was thinking, some men will probably start seeing their real wife for the first time, because the Botox will wear off, the fillers will wear off, the hair roots are going to begin to show, the fake nails are going to drop off, the eyelashes will fall out, women will have to start blow drying their own hair, and have to do their own makeup, and things will sag because they haven't got the machines and the injections to be able to keep everything lifting. The men are going to go, what, shocker, what did I marry, or what is this? Hello. I mean, how does the man deal with that, and how does the woman learn to be au naturel?
Okay, so I certainly could have said it better. I don't even come close to what you just said. What lives inside of women is beyond me sometimes. So, having said that, the first rule is never, if you haven't already done it, just don't do it in the future. Point out to him a wrinkle. Don't
Ah,
point out to him my thighs. Do you see my thighs? He doesn't see this stuff. Women, you see this stuff. He doesn't see this stuff.
good
And
point.
my favorite, we just don't see it. It's not unless you point it out. If you point it out, then we're gonna, oh yeah, there's that thing that is like we're being trained by you. Don't say it, and don't, to us, if you don't say it, and if you have said it, just don't say it again, and he'll gradually forget it. That's the great thing about men. We forget stuff. That's one of your big complaints. He always forgets. He always forgets. Now you should be grateful. He will forget. but, but don't point it out. And I wrote a book called Mars, Venus in the Bedroom. Okay, one of the themes in there is self-image. And what women don't realize is this point is that a man, he can look in the mirror and look at his bicep. He could be really overweight and not be handsome, but he looks at his bicep. He says, look at that, I got that. See, that's his, that he feels good about himself. That's all he looks at. And there's variations there, of course. Now, for a woman, she could have this model body, but look at this, one little thing, and she will it becomes huge.
True.
So it magnifies. He is not magnifying on those things. However, having said all of that, your power as women is your desire for sex. Whenever a woman is desiring sex, a man sees you as a supermodel. Okay, you are a supermodel. And I got this idea. I mean, it became clear to me. I was going into one of these lingerie stores to buy some lingerie for my wife. And there were the lady at the counter, I asked her, any interesting stories about lingerie? And she said, oh, yeah, here's one. 3 women come into the store. They're all in their 60s. They're all overweight. They're not sexy looking at all. And 2 of them are buying their white utility underwear, cotton utility underwear. And one of them buys all this sexy underwear with lace and nylon and, all soft and silky. And the other women are looking at her with disgust. What are you doing? Why are you buying that? You are ugly. Women can be vicious with each other. So you're just. And I'm not going to go into all that they said. And the woman looked at them with total confidence. She says, you don't understand men at all. When you're the only naked woman in the room, you're $1 million to any man.
That's brilliant.
But the key is you have to have that knowledge. There's a sense of confidence that you have to have, which you can lower the lights, you can put on candles. These are all things. You wear something, you don't just come out completely bare. You wear a little something see-through so that he has to gradually want. It's about striptease, basically. It's gradually desiring. And you have to have, as a woman, a sense of, I know how beautiful I am. I know you want me, and I love being wanted. Okay, so that's her desire to be here, as opposed to him feeling like he has to convince you to be here. But you're doing your thing. It's like if I'm making dinner for my wife, I know I'm going to get laid tonight. Okay, it's like it's as simple as that. It's just like I'll be cleaning up the dishes and everything like that. I'm going superstar. This is like something she gets excited by that. So I know what's going to happen tonight. So it's that confidence is very, very important, and it's a. I want to just for a moment get into the subtlety of the word confidence, because we're all used to that word. There's another variation. There's more the estrogen version of confidence, and that's called reassurance. Okay, I am assured, I'm self-assured that I will get what I need. Okay, confidence is more like I know what I can do to you, and that's also important. I know what I'm doing to you. You just check out between his legs and you know what you did to him. You should own that as your power. Okay, that's your power, and with that power, you will get what you need. And that's the assurance. Self-assured and confident is a blending of the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. And that's what sex really is. If you'll see in men, when he's having sex, he's going into her. See, his estrogen's going up. Now, men who don't last a long time, their estrogen went up, but their testosterone wasn't higher. It's really a matter of when his estrogen goes too high, then it's too much energy. Estrogen gives him energy. Women arouse men. They turn men on. His estrogen is going up. But once it gets over his testosterone or too high for his testosterone, then it blows the fuse and it's over. So that's, and so men who have more estrogen, less testosterone, and they tend to be your kind men, gentle men, loving men. But when their button gets pushed, they can become very angry. They become very irritable and grumpy and needy and whiny. But that tendency in men in sex will tend to cause estrogen to go up too high, testosterone goes down, and he's done. And that's the ejaculation for men results from too much estrogen and not enough testosterone to sustain it.
So tell me then, as we're all sort of locked up, can we have too much sex, or what is the good level at this time? Because in Ayurvedic medicine, they say you shouldn't have sex like every day. It's not good for you. And obviously men lose a lot of zinc every time that they ejaculate, right? So we need to make sure they're taking the right supplements there. So
thank you so much. And zinc is a very important supplement to take. Also, at times of stress, lithium orotate is very important. Lithium orotate, check it out. I've done lots of videos on it online. John Gray, lithium orotate on YouTube. Check it out. It's so powerful to lower stress. It's cheapest supplement you can buy online, and it's also the most powerful.
Is that everybody, men, women, everybody?
For both. Everybody has this stress fight or flight thing. It's also, as we get older, it regenerates brain cells so you don't lose your brain as well. It has so many benefits, and it's completely not talked. It's taboo to talk about. You won't find it in stores, unfortunately, but you can get it online, and it's not prescription. In some countries, it's illegal. Canada, you can't buy it. It's not illegal to have. You just can't sell it in Canada. Because the psychiatrists use it for bipolar, but they don't use the right. They use it in toxic doses, and they use a different form, lithium carbonate, and not lithium orotate. Lithium orotate is easily transmitted into the brain, so you only need healthy doses. Doctors give you 500 times that dose for bipolar. So anytime anything 500 times normal is going to have a side effect. But lithium itself has no side effect, completely safe. But very few people know about it. I mean, I've had millions now go to my YouTube, and they keep taking it off and putting it back on, taking it off, put it back on. But I think it's changed the world. Just that one cheap supplement has helped so many people. My books have changed the world, but people thank me for the lithium orotate information. It's so helpful. You can also go to website marsvenus.com, where I have understanding videos on it as well. You can get it on YouTube as well.
Okay.
So we were off on the subject of where were we? It was zinc and ejaculation. How much sex? Okay. Yeah, okay. Now this is a big subject. All right. So before I say anything, I agree with you what you just said. Men need to know that every time you ejaculate, you just lost a ton of zinc, maybe 2 days supply. And as a result, you need that zinc in order to make testosterone. So now your testosterone levels will start to drop. Now, it doesn't mean you'll lose your sex drive if your testosterone drops. It means you'll be addicted to non-personal sex. Okay, so to be having sex with your wife and making love to her requires a lot of testosterone. You could have sex with your wife thinking about a fantasy woman, and so really you're thinking about somebody else. That would keep your erection for a while. But actually, men get addicted to this porn. They get addicted to porn images in their brain. Even if, I don't watch any of that stuff, but even if I did, I had to write a book on it, and boy, it feels good to do porn. It's like a drug. But what I noticed making love to my wife is all the images that I saw would pass, but I wasn't like clinging to them. They would pass. Okay. It was kind of like, yeah, now I finally get to have a real experience of it, with a person. So they will come. So it's not a bad thing for them to pass. It's a problem if you're having to cling to those images in order to stay aroused. That's where you're addicted.
Yeah.
So, you see a hot woman walking by, that thought might pass while you're looking at your hot wife, or your naked wife, the one you love and adore. That image will pass. Just don't cling to it, and it will go. But the addiction is when you have to cling to it, and that means you need strict avoidance of looking at porn. And then after that, looking at porn is ridiculous. For me, okay. And I don't. There was a time in my life where I thought, wow, that was really great because I was addicted to it. I was masturbating to it. Then you create pathways of dependence on this high stimulation, as opposed to it's not even a real, and I don't mean to offend people when I laugh at porn, but think about a boy being turned onto a mannequin. Okay, so it's like, wait a second, where's your energy going? And the key thing is there's an energetic thing when you ejaculate as well, where your energy goes out. And if your energy goes out, besides losing your zinc, your energy goes out. If it doesn't come back with love and affection and warmth, you just lost your energy. But if you see, love is kind of a connection. It's a oneness. You're actually inside of her. you're feeling one with her. So when your energy goes into her, it comes back because she loves you. If she doesn't love you, you don't get any energy back either. So then you lose interest in going there. That's why when men, go to prostitutes or whatever, generally it's a one night stand. They never want to go back. Or porn. What they find on porn is that men, because they can look at the statistics on this, is that rarely do they go back to the same person. They always want something new and different, new and different. Occasionally they might have a fantasy relationship, but the massive majority is, I need something new and different, new and different, new and different. And more unusual as well, because that's new and different and dangerous. So danger stimulates addiction, dopamine. So having said all that, your question was, how much sex is good? This is like, so finally, who can say, except your own experience? But there was a Japanese had done several studies on this, where they measure a man's testosterone levels, because testosterone is all associated with a man's performance, both athletic and in the bedroom, as well as well-being in life. Okay, so all of that has so much to do with testosterone in men. So having said that, they measured the testosterone before and after sex, and they found that after sex, their testosterone went down half. Okay, and it stayed half, which was, we might say, is their normal testosterone level. Okay, but then and if they did not ejaculate for 6 days, on the 7th day, for all of these students, their testosterone levels doubled. So they went for 6 days. On the 7th day, they woke up that morning and their testosterone level was twice as high. They performed better athletically. Okay, that's what they measure, their athletic performance, and they measure their testosterone. Their testosterone levels doubled. Now, so there you get, as a general theme, 1 ejaculation a week keeps you alpha man. Okay, so and keeps your connection with your partner. You won't be alpha. Alpha means double the testosterone. You won't be double the testosterone throughout the week. You'll be your normal testosterone. But on Saturday night, you'll be double testosterone, which is very important for women to feel that much testosterone coming from their man. That means he's patient, he's intent, he's adoring, he's selfless, he's giving, he performs well, his heart is wide open. Because your heart wide open when men are having sex and their testosterone is twice as high. You feel devotion, you feel oneness, you feel surrender, you feel, and also you feel attachment. You're my wife. Nobody else gets you. You're mine. Okay. I'm king. King Kong here. You're mine. I'm holding you tight. I'm surrendered to you. I feel one with you. That's what marriage is. You're my wife. I'm your husband. And it's a really sweet. That's the orgasmic experience of hormones going to their peak level if you've got your alpha level, if you're a man. Otherwise, it's just a pleasurable release. And couples will experience this to various degrees. They may not articulate it to themselves, but when they fall in love, that's what the sex is like. It's just magnificent. And then you settle into routine. But often the routine happens because you're having sex too much. So I would not say limit your sex to once a week. I'd say that if your sex is not magnificent, go back to once a week for a while to build up your testosterone. Then you go on, so many couples will go on a getaway and they'll just have so much sex. Why? Because there's newness. So you're back to this extra stimulation. Now, if you happen to be an alpha male, now alpha male is somebody who basically in our society is seen as king. Then you can be King Kong every day and ejaculate. That's going to be your Bill Clinton's. He's the president of the country. He had so many women. He's always having women. He's on the prowl all the time, according to what people have told me. But that's a different reality. You become King Kong or you become alpha man because once a week your testosterone levels double. You ride on that wave for the week. Your testosterone won't be as high, but you'll feel that you are a great man because of that. It's just amazing what great sex can do for couples, for individuals, and for her to feel he loves me that much. Then there's another dynamic when you talk about, well, how much sex can you have? If ideal maybe is one a week, and the Taoist philosophy, they'll say that, for a young man, and that's what these studies were done on, was 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds in that range, that once a week the testosterone will double. It may be for a man who's older that it takes longer maybe 8 days, and maybe 9 days. I've heard from many women who've told me that, if he ejaculates, he's gone for 9 days because he doesn't have his juice. I mean, it literally crashes down, and it's
In such a scenario like that, are there any other supplements that you would recommend that men could take? Obviously not, I'm not talking Viagra here, but just on a general level or within this time as well to help keep with the stress, because you've got a lot of supplements on your website. You recommend a lot of things. What do you think would really help us now?
Oh, I think Tongkat Ali is a really good one.
Yeah.
And if there's any issues there, then amp it up. There's another supplement, which is from Beets. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's Beets, also a concentrated supplement. I wish I could remember it. It's from Beets. But if they go to, I have little talks on all these things. If they go to libido or sexual performance, click on that. You'll see my suggestions there. It's all nicely written out for you. Because every man is different. There can be all kinds of other reasons. Like, let's say you have diabetes and blood sugar issues. Then those things can help. They won't do the trick. Then you're going to need something like berberine, which is a herb which balances your blood sugar. It's proven to balance your blood sugar more than taking insulin. I mean, these are all natural herbs. The Indians in India they did, and American Indians they did. Around the world, indigenous people would have these conditions. They'd find natural things. So I have a lot of that stuff on my website. So go to the libido thing. But Tongkat Ali is one of the best. I mean, there's a lot of things, different herbs, but to me, I've seen that's the best because for men today, it helps kick estrogen out of the body. Okay, if your estrogen is too high, you're just not going to get an erection. If you're a guy, you become overly feminized. You're getting the boobs and that whole thing. You're getting the belly. And the belly and the boobs for men means your estrogen's too high. And so you want to start kicking out estrogen. Exercise. You see these guys, they're gym rats and they still got big bellies. They work out all the time. It's because they got estrogen, and sometimes they have too many emotional pathways where they have emotional reactions to things. But see, that's reinforced. Anger is reinforced in men. Okay, you're a real man if you're angry. Actually, you're not. You're a feminized man if you get angry. You're real masculine man. And I hate to define a man because we're all men, but you're on your female side too much if you're too emotional. And if you're emotional, positive emotions, no problem. Okay, I love you. I'm happy. I'm fantastic. I'm great. That if you're positive and you're emotional, that means your testosterone is high because testosterone is confidence. And I'm also emotional. That's the best of the world. But whenever you're negative emotional and you're a man, your estrogen's, your testosterone's too low. Now, if you're negative emotional and you're a woman, you're addicted to emotions. Okay, that's the thing, is that emotions are really good for women, positive or negative. But you need to feel. If you don't feel, your well-being goes down. And that's where you want to get back in touch with your emotions and your feelings. But I don't ever want to say for women anything wrong about negative emotions, because if you have the pathways of negative emotions, all those negative emotions are emotions. So if you deny those emotions, you stop having emotions. So you need to, this is what psychology is right when they say don't suppress your emotions, but you need to find the right channel for them to turn into positive.
Right.
It's like a dirty river. If it flows, it will self-purify. If it flows, so if you have negative emotions and somebody can hear you and empathize with you, it's self-purifying. It's self-purifying. But you shouldn't expect your husband to do that, because what happens is that he has sex with you, right? And if he has sex with you, the other person doesn't. But if he has sex with you, he has these things called mirror cells. Mirror cells. The more you're connected to somebody, the more your mirror cells turn on, which means if you're happy, I'm happy. If you're sad, I'm sad. If you're angry, I'm angry. If you don't trust me, I don't trust you. So when you express negative emotions, they're always blaming. They're always not trusting. They're always trying to change someone. So if you're trying to change me, automatically if I'm feeling threatened and negative emotions are threatening, then I will suddenly go into fight or flight back. So this is why couples get into this stuff. Now, it's normal, natural for that to happen, okay? And so many couples stop having sex instinctively just to avoid the arguments, okay? So, and some couples have arguments to enjoy sex. That's called make-up sex, but it doesn't last a lifetime. After a while, it's too threatening. You just shut down your emotions. But you will have great sex after big emotional explosions. Why? Because your emotions got expressed. They opened your heart again afterwards. You're just exhausted. All that energy is released.
Yeah.
And now you can be free of that. But that's not a healthy pattern to be into. It means now I have to have negative emotions in order to experience intimacy. And negative emotions build mistrust. I'm looking outside. I'm seeing 3 vultures out my window.
My gosh.
I've seen that before. That's
scary.
And now they're fighting. I said 3 vultures right outside my window. This is like this topic. This is what happens to couples. We get into these patterns. So here's a really key thing for women to know and for men to know. Men only are angry and argumentative and defensive when their estrogen levels are too high, right? We've already established that's what's going on inside of him. If you talk about your emotions, it always increases your estrogen, whether they're positive or negative. So the worst thing you can do when you're feeling negative emotions and you're a man is to talk. That's why Buddha taught meditation. He said, stop talking, reflect, empty the mind, forget your problems. What men need to do when they're upset is temporarily distract.
Interesting.
Go away. Don't talk about what was upsetting you. And of course, in therapy, which we do, we want people to talk about their feelings. And women have this, everybody's taught women, you need to talk about your feelings. And it's true for women. Men, if they're in a stress response, do not need to talk about their feelings. Once they're out of the stress response, they can explore what was going on. Okay, reflect on why did I get angry, why I was sad. Part of me, when this happens, I feel sad. Or it reminds me of my childhood when I was a little boy and I felt rejected, inadequate. I felt really sad. That's fine to do if it's about childhood, because in childhood, a boy's estrogen levels are the same as a little girl's. So it's important to embrace the feelings of a little boy. But once you become a man, you got to keep that testosterone up for your well-being. And at a time of fight or flight, already your estrogen is going to be going too high. So the last thing you want to do, women, is ask him questions. You want him to go to his cave. You want him to go do something. Oh, let's take time out. Let's take a time out. And my wife taught me this. She just said, oh, you're being mean, and walked out of the room. We never got in arguments. Oh, you're being mean. And I go, no, I can talk about this. No, yeah, you're not coming from your heart. I said, okay. But sometimes I would get angry. And I said, okay, now I got to stop. I need to take my time. Yeah. And because, for me, had the extra benefit to learn all this because I'd been a monk for 9 years. I can meditate and be happy. Bad things happen. I get all triggered and everything. Then I can just go meditate and I can forget all my problems temporarily. Then when I come back to looking at what happened, my heart's open and I can reflect on how did I contribute to the problem. It's always easy to see how our partner contributes to the problem. Now vultures went away. So it's basically, that's the whole key, is seeing how we contribute to the problem. And that's a man's salvation, because when you recognize that you're not powerless, but that you caused the problems in your life, your testosterone goes back up. Now for women, they need the other thing. They need to, first of all, feel a little powerless. They need to feel like this happened to me, and share with somebody who's not going to save you. Share with somebody who's not going to, you don't have to change them to make your life better. That allows the estrogen to go higher. Then your testosterone can come up and balance, where you feel, okay, now let me analyze how I contributed to this problem. Okay. If you do it too soon and you're a woman, you tend to feel too guilty. You tend to feel like I'm a bad person, I don't deserve love. So you first need to express whatever emotions are there, then come back and look at, okay, now how did I contribute to this problem? What can I do to avoid it in the future? What do I need to learn? And just, we're in the COVID time, just to remember all this gender stuff, relationship stuff, that's if you have a partner at home. And if you have a partner at home, you have children at home, or you're single at home, one of the very best things you can do, whether you're a man or woman, because not everything is gender about, is learn new things. Okay. If you're learning new things, taking classes, learning things that are useful and productive for you, that you value, your blood flow will go to the prefrontal cortex. And if you're sitting there watching the news, you're learning new things that have no value to you at all, except maybe 10 minutes of the news. And it will be addictive. It will desensitize you. It will keep you from experiencing normal happiness. So 6 hours in front of the TV set, and when you turn it off, you will be more unhappy. Yeah. Even if you don't believe it, even if you feel I got everything I need, it's not a problem for me. It doesn't matter what you just did. It's been 6 hours in a high dopamine stimulation. It's news porn, basically, is what it is happening right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just any note for pregnant women at this time, because it's quite it's a very high anxiety for pregnant women at the
Oh my
moment.
gosh. Well, you're probably going to give birth to little warriors who want to protect you. My mother, she had 6 boys, and one of them is like a soldier. He was in the army. He's bigger, almost twice as big as everybody else. And it was because he was in the womb while my dad was in World War II. He was actually in London in World War II when they're bombing and everything. And my mother's at home and she's worrying about the war. So her baby ended up becoming like this different child. But anyway, having said all that, that's just the possibility. Because babies are influenced by what you think and what you feel. So it's really important is take lots of baths. Baths are a natural frequency. Have lots of flowers around you. Go for walks in nature. Do breathing exercises. Listen to music. Do guided meditations. Guided meditations are very, very relaxing. It's very important that the child not get all these stress messages. Otherwise, they'll create pathways in their brain which are based on fight or flight. And so that's one thing. Two is if you do get a flu, I just want to say this because you're pregnant. Don't take Tylenol to suppress a fever. It's shown that children have more mental problems if the mother has had a flu and she took Tylenol or any of this fever suppressants. Basically, what you need to know is running a fever is not a bad thing. We have this big misconception that fevers are bad. You immediately suppress it with Tylenol. Tylenol suppresses a fever, but it also suppresses glutathione in the liver, which is your antioxidant. So you're in a fight or flight state and you're taking Tylenol, not a good idea. Every doctor will tell you to take Tylenol to suppress a fever. You don't need to. There's never been any reported damage to the brain, all the way up to 105. That's the American version, 105. And people, long before that, they would be thinking, oh my God, this is terrible, terrible. No, it's not. It's actually helping the brain heal itself. It's what your body needs to do. I personally think all the people who are dying from COVID, if they didn't suppress the fever, the body would be able to manage itself. We know that when you run a fever, you produce something called heat shock proteins. These heat shock proteins regenerate the brain cells, regenerate the body, heal the body. They're like the emergency workers. See, we have these emergency workers that will come out for us. Like in America, I'm going to use a metaphor. The states are saying, where's the federal government? Where's the federal government? Federal government says, hey, that's your job. We don't do that anymore. We just take all your money, but we're keeping this stuff for ourselves. So that's the federal government, where our body has got this federal emergency government, and we have our states. We have our normal way of handling things. But under emergency conditions, the body will generate a fever. It produces heat shock proteins, which are known to do all these beneficial things. But then suddenly we go, oh, let's suppress the fever. We're not going to, the federal government just says, no, we're not coming. So you need that extra support at these times. And that's the fever. So please, if you're pregnant, don't suppress your fever. You're not going to hurt your child. Mothers report, even when you have children and they run a fever, that if you don't use Tylenol, that your child will actually take a leap in their social skills or their intellectual skills. It's always an improvement if you go through it as opposed to suppress it. So for pregnant mothers as well, let's hope that there's a man there too. Now, this is the game you play. Now, I suggest for all couples to play this game. And if your roommates or got roommates, you could play this game. It doesn't have to be an intimate relationship, but it's this is the game. It's called Genie in the Bottle. Now, Genie in the Bottle. Remember, this is a game that for males is going to increase their testosterone, and for females, it's going to increase their estrogen. Okay, estrogen goes up when someone is taking care of you, does things for you, and serves you. Okay, so if you're a princess, your estrogen tends to go too high, and then you have problems of too much estrogen, and you go crazy. Okay, too much estrogen is crazy. All right, so, and you see this happening with the royalty. You know, they go a little nuts. We all know that. Okay, so because everybody's waiting on you, everybody's serving you and serving you and serving you. So that increases estrogen. And of course, for males, it's really deadly because then they have big egos, and that big ego happens because everybody's serving you. Unless you had to really, as a child, learn to earn the love as a male, you become very weak. in certain ways. Okay, having said all that, we'll stay out of the royalty. I'm just talking to London here, so or England.
Genie in the bottle.
It's the genie in the bottle. So for 20 minutes, a woman says, let's play genie in the bottle today. You pick when. Okay. Then he picks when, so he doesn't feel like he's being controlled.
Oh,
Now,
sure.
genie in the bottle is 20 minutes where she basically says, okay, we're going to play genie in the bottle. He says, yes. And then so he says, let's play genie in the bottle. So he comes out of the bottle and he's like Superman. Okay. I'm all powerful genie. I can do anything you want. You just have to ask.
Ooh.
So you have to rub the bottle. You have to ask. If you don't rub the bottle and ask, he doesn't do anything. So he stands there. He's okay. He stands there. Now what rubbing the bottle is, and you get more than 3 wishes. You get unlimited wishes within 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
You will do anything you want. And this is not a problem for men. They can do 20 minutes as long as they know it's making you happy. So your job as a woman is to say, okay, I'd like you to give me a foot rub. Would you? And you'd be specific. I'd like you to go get this particular oil and come over here and rub my feet. And I'll let you know when I'm done. Okay. And now he does it. And he says, it's my wish. It's my pleasure. I'm so happy. It's no problem for me. I can do it. I'm happy to do it. He's always giving you reassurance that he's happy to respond to your request. That is one of the most powerful estrogen stimulators in existence. Is I have a need. I trust that if I ask, I will get it. Okay, this is so wonderful. So now you can't ask for things. There's rules. Okay, this is a game. You can't say, okay, I want you to clean out the garage tomorrow. No, that's not. That's tomorrow. It's something you can do in 20 minutes that will bring you pleasure or relaxation or will make you feel good. And that's where you have to take responsibility for a woman to go, okay, what can he do for me that will make me feel good? It's also kind of a wake-up call for some women because they go, well, there's nothing he can do for me to make me feel good. I feel bad. Okay, well, now you get to really see you have a problem here because why don't men do things for you? Because you don't respond with happiness. It's like, why would I go to a job and have them not pay me or not feel I have any value or worth? I'm not going to go. And then my testosterone will crash. So even if you don't immediately see how he can make you happy, fake it till you make it. It's okay, a little faking in the beginning. Even if he has some resistance to doing it, fake it. Because within 5 minutes of that 20 minutes, you'll work through your resistance and you'll suddenly enjoy this raising of the hormones. It's a supercharged hormone booster. And here's some things she could ask him. I'd like you to draw a bath for me. I'd like you to put on music, put on the candles. And I'd like you to massage my neck. That's one thing you can do. Another one, you do that towards the end, then you can have your bath and extend the time. But I want you to clean up the kitchen right now. I want this clean and this clean, or change those light bulbs. Or I want you to carry those boxes in the garage, break them down, and put them in the trash. So you're seeing your request and a response, and see how many things you can get him to do. Because it's not one big thing, it's lots of little things. Because as we discussed before, every response to a woman's need is an estrogen booster. So you want to get as many estrogen boosters in there as opposed to spending your whole 20 minutes getting a foot massage. You could, but get them to do more things for you and around the house, things that you would like. And you could also say, now I'd like you just to listen to how I feel. But the one rule is you can't express feelings about what's bad with him. Okay. This is all positive. You could say, I want to just do what I call a Venus talk. I want to talk for a little while about what's going on at my office or what I'm feeling. But it's best to stay out of negative feelings during the game. That would be stick to actions that he can do for you as an estrogen stimulator. It's so much fun to do. And just keep it in 20 minutes, 20-minute window. And let's say he's in his cave watching TV or playing a video game, whatever he's doing, working out. And by the way, what men can do, they really need to do things to distract themselves from their problems. So physical labor is really good. And mental labor. Mental labor is willpower. So what I'm doing, for example, is one of my problems is I have clutter. I tend to collect things and people tend to give me stuff and it's hard for me to throw it away. So I have resistance. I procrastinate cleaning things up where there's clutter and buildup. Whenever you have a procrastination and you resist doing something that you actually want to do, but you resist doing it, overcoming resistance is a big testosterone booster. So doing what you don't like to do, doing what you don't want to do actually increases testosterone. So that's what men can recognize. You want to do, when you lift weights, what do? You lift a heavy weight that's not easy. You do difficult things. and suddenly you don't have your challenges in front of you. You need those challenges. So you've got your internal challenges to overcome. If you know how to meditate, you would then say, how long do I meditate? Then add another 5 minutes or another 10 minutes to it. Push like lifting weights always, and then relaxing, then watching some TV or doing what you read a book or whatever, but then pushing is really hard. And for women is to let go of the pushing with more relaxing things that they can do.
Okay. And is there a game for guys for the women to perform the other way around from Genie in the Bottle?
That's the game. That game is that builds testosterone when he's doing for the woman. That is his game.
Cool.
I love doing it. It's total win. Everything I do is right. You have to realize men live in a world quite often when they're married where everything they do is not enough and everything they do is wrong. So he now gets to be everything I do is right, and and just as a few things women can pick up today as just little takeaways is when a guy's talking, you're having conversations, not when you're playing the game, but just, conversations. Try throwing in as many times as you can. What a good idea. Hey, that makes sense. I hadn't thought of that. Oh, you're right. That's a good thing. Just throw those little phrases in there. And when a woman's talking, what a man can throw in with her is more phrases along the lines of, oh, help me understand that better. I really want to get that. What else? Tell me more. Oh, really? And then what? Really? Then what? Wow. So show a little more enthusiasm. And whenever she speaks, always have a response. Don't stand there and think about what she said. Always have a response. Women will talk and they'll stop and there's a lull. You have to respond something. And so rather than respond with a different point of view or no response at all, simply say, wow, hadn't thought of that. Tell me more. What else? Oh, really? Now, sometimes women need to feel what's going on inside of you. And the problem there is you really don't want to, if you're in your fight or flight, you don't want to share anything that's going on inside of you. And if you're not in fight or flight, generally not much is going on inside of you. So what to do? So she talks or she doesn't talk much. You need to prime the pump. The need to share what's going on inside is a major estrogen need. Okay. So having said that, women sometimes don't feel they can share because they're not feeling like you're going to share with them. There needs to be sort of a reciprocity. I don't want to just share and get no response back. I don't want to share what's inside with somebody who's not interested in what's going on inside of me. I don't want to share what's going on with somebody who doesn't really care, understand. So if you have an old-fashioned pump, you're pumping up water, you would always have to put a little water in it. That's called priming the pump. Put a little of what you want in and then start cranking and it comes out. Okay. So if I want my wife to open up, because many men say, oh, my wife doesn't want to talk. She never wants to talk. She's always worrying too much. She's too busy. So that's due to her own patterning, her own training, her imbalance, whatever, because she never probably had the experience of being able to share and feel fully heard. She doesn't know how good it feels. So you have to experience something to know you really need it. So anyway, so you prime the pump by just saying, oh, I'm so happy to see you. I was just watching this TV show, or I thought about this. I was doing this in the garage and I was looking for my screws and my drill and I couldn't find it. But then I looked over here and I found it up on that shelf. Somehow I forgot to put it here and I put it there. Just tell a little story about an experience of something you did. Don't talk about what you feel. You don't have to go into what you feel because you said, oh, guy, what do you feel? I don't know. Unless he's in fight or flight, then he's going to dump negativity on her to change her. All these negative emotions are always primitive. They tend to want to change somebody. There's nothing wrong with negative emotions. They're part of who we are, but we tend to use them too much and too intensity or use them to manipulate. We want to learn that negative emotions are simply messages from within our soul that you're out of balance. Okay. And they, if I'm angry about something, I have to look inside. Okay, what is it that I'm wanting that I'm not getting? If I'm sad about something, I'm having to, what is it I need to let go of and move on from? If I'm afraid, okay, what is it that I don't want to happen? So it kind of opens your mind to some of the confusion that's inside. And then you get clear by letting go of the fear, letting go of the sadness, letting go of the anger. So there's a place for them in our life that are very, very beneficial. When you're in fight or flight, you want to not try to push it down. You want to embrace it like a child who's crying and help the child understand that you have the solutions. But first, you have to hear what they're upset about. Otherwise, they go, no, no, you don't understand. No, no, you don't understand. No, no, you don't understand. You can't hear wisdom and knowledge until a person feels fully heard. If I want you to hear what I have to say, I have to fully hear what you have to say if you're in fight or flight. So this is like stuff we have to learn with ourselves. So I'm not saying negative emotions are bad. I'm saying don't use them to change your partner and use them to vent. For men, still, I use negative emotions. Once my heart is open and I'm feeling peaceful, then I go, what was I angry about? What was I sad about? What are those feelings? If I am stuck in emotions, one of the best things people can do is, first of all, no, don't believe what you're thinking and feeling. Always, you're way out of balance right now. You're generally not in present time. You're in the past. So if you're feeling a lot of sadness and anger or fear, whatever, go back to a time where your brain wasn't really developed and you really had good reasons to be so immature, so emotional. You're like a child. Say, okay, all right, now I'm not going to have any money. I'm not good enough. I don't know what's going to happen. That's a big fear for people today. This is really scary. Rather than continue to feel that fear, you're just building those pathways in the brain. Say to yourself, now I want to go back to a time in my past where I had good reason to be afraid. And that would be a time, for me, it's when the neighborhood kids were chasing me, and I was terrified. They were stripping little children and humiliating them. And so then they now looked at me. And so I ran to my mother and I was in terror, I was in terror. And the truth is, so what if they stripped me? No big deal. Okay, I'm a little kid. But I didn't know that. And also I got away. My mother helped me. And so it wasn't some big trauma, except I made it a trauma. I'm scared for my life and death. Sometimes you feel powerless. When I feel powerless, I can't, there's pressure on me, so much pressure. I remember one time my brothers, they buried me. And it was very traumatic for me. Now, it wasn't like, it might sound right away. I had dug a hole in the backyard where I could climb into it and just sit. I like going back into the womb. And meditate. I didn't know I was meditating, but I was, and being in this space. So I would go, and my dad fell in the hole one time. He said, you got to fill in that hole. So I put a roof on the hole with a tunnel into it. And so then I could go into my tunnel and still have my little place I would go, my little cubby hole under the ground. And one brother decided he was going to sit in the way to get out. So he was now blocking my exit. I always needed to feel there was like a way out. Otherwise claustrophobia set in. And so he was in the tunnel. And then another brother sat on top of him, and I'm in there screaming, and I could still feel the walls pressing in on me, like being in a coffin and not being able to get out, all that terror. So if I feel pressure now, I just go back to when I was a kid and go, yeah, this is nothing compared to what I felt then. It's just emotions. That's why we have so much fear in present time. Is we're not really in present time. We're re-experiencing some of the traumas of our past. So rather than, try to escape from that, I go back and I just comfort that little boy who's in there. He says, just, you're going to get out soon. Everything's okay. Calming it down. Everything's going to be okay. They're going to come, and now they're coming. Now they get out. You're free. So I already know that. I can go to that place, and that's the place where I get to go and connect with the part of me that's afraid and give reassurance it's going to be okay. Because if I give reassurance to myself right now, how do I know what the future is going to bring? I don't know what the future is going to bring. Sure. But at the same time, I am in my home and I have enough food in my body. And, and even when it comes to not eating, I'm prepared for that as a monk, because I could go for, 30 days on water, so you can live for a long time without food. What's that?
You eat once a day, I think, wasn't it?
Well, right now I eat once a day. Yeah, I just eat once a day. But when I was a monk, sometimes I'd fast for 30 days on water, and I didn't die. Actually you get super healthy. It takes a lot of willpower, but just don't eat junk food during that time. Really just drink lots of water. You can survive, and actually you'll thrive. After 3 days of not eating, if you're getting plenty of water, you will not be hungry, unless you're constantly saying, I should be eating, I'm not getting eating. You're in fight or flight. So just know that this is a time for us to reset, and it's a time for people to look within to themselves, for their issues, to solve their problem, to take classes online, to learn new things without depending upon the stimulation of their family or their partner or their work or things that they can't do Find the happiness inside. And, you know, to a certain extent, you can't find the happiness inside if you're always depending on the outer world to find your happiness. And so it's kind of like induced self-sufficiency here, forcing people to look within, can be the benefit. That's how we can thrive from this, or we can start doing addictive things and not thrive.
That's it. We've got to see it as an opportunity for sure. Now, I know that the time is coming to an end. I just want to do some quick wellness questions in the form of a lightning round, just to understand a bit more about you so that people can know you a bit better. The first thing you did when you woke up this morning was?
Meditate.
Okay, nice.
Second thing was the cup of coffee that I haven't finished. I sip on it. Third thing was I meditated again in the bathtub. Wow. That's extra because the world has so much stress. I want to immerse myself in natural frequencies. Water is one of the most powerful ways to immerse yourself in that.
That's true. If I were a fruit or vegetable, I would be?
Tomato or orange.
Nice. Last time I used my oven was?
About 4 days ago. I cooked a steak.
Okay. And tonight you're going to eat what today?
Sushi.
And your mantra at the moment?
I'll do my ancient mantra, Shring.
Okay.
I don't have a mantra. I go into unbounded consciousness and go into light. You know, it's very funny. When I became a teacher of transcendental meditation. I told my mother, Mom, you have to learn this technique. You go deep, deep inside. You repeat this phrase. And she said, oh, really? I meditate. I said, well, what do you do? She says, oh, I go up into the light. I said, no, you have to go down. You have to go. But now if my children say to me, what do you do? I go into the light. You know, I interact with the energy of the universe is what I do. You know, I feel the energy flowing and I go into the light.
And if you could take one food with you to a desert island, what would it be?
Oranges.
Oh, I love the oranges. Okay. And finally, a rapid fire phrase game where I'm going to say some words or phrases and you need to give me your first instinctive thought response that comes to mind. Okay. Lectins destroy your health.
I get a picture of the guy who taught me about lectins. I agree.
You agree. Okay. Kale is a superfood.
Yes, but it absorbs too much mercury. It absorbs toxicity in the air.
Can be very toxic, yeah. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Well, I haven't been to McDonald's in like 50 years, but it was delicious then. And their milkshakes are great.
There's a bit additive they put in. 5G is safe.
No.
Okay. Beyond Meat, it looks, cooks, and satisfies like beef. Better for you and the planet.
Lies.
Alkaline water can help prevent disease.
Misunderstood.
Okay. Global warming, the poles are melting.
It's a hydrogen that helps you with disease.
Very good. Yeah, I drink hydrogen water. Totally agree. Global warming, the poles are melting.
Yes, it's dangerous.
Okay. Chemtrails are real.
Very real.
Mm-hmm. I happily vaccinated my children. Do the same.
I've never vaccinated my children. I've never been vaccinated.
Love that. Fantastic. Most people are full of shit. Colonics and enemas regularly are essential for us to detoxify.
I used to do them about 40 years ago, and I thought it was a good thing.
Okay, interesting. And finally, the medical medium. Celery juice is the most powerful medicine of our time, healing millions worldwide.
Exaggerated.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, John. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you again today. I've just loved it. You're a wealth of knowledge, I have to say. And I look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for mentioning my website and all the wellness stuff. People always think about me as the relationship guy, but actually I'm totally into supplements and diet and exercise. All that stuff is really important.
I mean, your website is a complete wealth of knowledge. I mean, you can spend hours looking at that every day, and I highly recommend it to everybody at this time specifically.
And I think on our website, we also have a great course on sex, which is fun too. People can check that out.
Okay, that's good. And do you recommend tantra sex at this time or not really?
Well, when we talked about sex, do you give me a couple of minutes here? We talked about not ejaculating so much. I do rarely ejaculate. Okay, I have sex every day. Maybe not every day because today I had to do a lot of media, but it would be meditate, it'd be a bath, it'd be sex. I mean, I'm having so much sex now during this time, but it's not ejaculating sex. If a man can orgasm without ejaculating, then your testosterone stays at double. So mine is 50% higher than when I was a young man all the time.
Gosh.
And then, but that's a advanced course. That's the advanced course. It can be dangerous to do. If you just get all excited and you try not to ejaculate, you can cause prostatitis. So you have to do certain muscle exercises. I do these muscle exercises in order to shift the really strong lock down there so the energy goes up and doesn't go out, and then you can have orgasms without ejaculating.
And do you do one-on-one courses if somebody wanted to ever in the future come to you and you could teach this?
Yeah, I teach it in a class here in California. It'll be that class will be online eventually, but right now I teach men and I teach women as well. Women don't ejaculate, so it's not a big deal for them, and so they say, "Oh, I'm practicing tantra." Yeah, well, you don't ejaculate anyway. Basically, tantra is having sex for a lot of sex as a spiritual practice without ejaculating. But it takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of patience. It takes training. It takes muscle exercises. And also, it's a different kind of an orgasm that a woman experiences. Many women don't orgasm. Some women do orgasm, but they often do it themselves. And this is learning how to ride the waves of never ever trying to grip the orgasm, but having it take you over until your whole body loses control and you're mindless. It's a surrendering of herself, as opposed to, there's a place where women get to where they go, "Oh, I could have an orgasm," and then they go for it. And that's where you have to stop. That's your ejaculation in a sense. You go for it and give it to yourself. So you never feel there's an ending to it. The traditional orgasms are I'm done, and this one you're not done. Yeah.
Interesting. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Dr. John. It's been a pleasure. Much love and appreciation to you and everything that you're doing in the world. I hope to speak to you again very, very soon. Stay well and stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.